Hello and welcome to the channel. The Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has lost all credibility in the eyes of millions of Nigerians. 1 week after, what they conducted last Saturday was a shambles, not an election. The whole process from beginning to end was flawed. Will the electoral body ever gain Nigerians' trust again? Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you. Why INEC cannot be trusted again, Nigerians. By 1:30 p.m. on election day, with ban on vehicular movement except for election duties, materials have not arrived to commence accreditation and voting. In Ward 11, Unit 18 of Ahoada West, by 3 p.m., which was past the voting time allowed by the guidelines, materials had not arrived. Same was experienced in several places to the frustrations of teeming voters who came out as early as 7 a.m., determined to ensure nothing stopped them from casting their votes. In the end, many were disenfranchised as voting was aborted, with many still on the queues into nightfall. It was the same ugly story in many polling units across the country. Ballot boxes were snatched by thugs. Voting was disrupted by armed hoodlums who chased away voters. INEC officials either refused to upload the result sheets on the INEC central server or changed the figures at the collation centers. There has been an outpouring of emotions by Nigerians following the frustrations and pains they went through when they went to the polls last Saturday for the presidential and National Assembly elections. They spoke on the lessons that were learned during the exercise and whether they would continue to trust the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC under Professor Mahmoud Yakubu to conduct a free and fair election in the country. We've learned a bitter lesson from last Saturday's election because the INEC chairman explained the provisions of the 2022 electoral law, telling us that cast votes will be transmitted in real time on the INEC server. While we looked forward to that, unheard of rules were introduced and all they did was votes allocation rather than a reflection of what the people did at the polling stations. INEC cannot be trusted. It has shown that it is not a credible entity under the leadership of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and the result we had was a charade. What Professor Mahmoud has done shouldn't just be reversed, but he should also be punished for trying to set Nigeria on fire through the unwholesome behavior he put up, contrary to what he himself said was the interpretation of the Electoral Act 2022. The lesson to draw from the last Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections is that in a democracy, power belongs to the people. For 4 incumbent governors to lose their senatorial ambitions is a confirmation that in a democracy, anything is possible. The bitter part of the election is that the national chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, compromised and declared someone who failed as the winner of the presidential elections. So many people came out for the first time to vote because of the assurance by INEC that the beavers will transmit the election results from the polling units to the IREV, which will make the process credible. But the national chairman reneged on his promise as contained in the electoral law and resorted to manual collation, which helped him to declare his preferred candidate as president-elect, despite failing woefully in the elections. INEC assured Nigerians on numerous occasions that it was prepared to conduct a free, fair, and credible election, but the pulse of the masses and party agents at the polling units, ward level, and the National Collation Center suggest a cruel fraud in the entire conduct of the elections. There was late arrival of INEC staff, who in many cases did not show up until 3 p.m. for a process that was to start at 8 a.m. Failure of beavers' machines slowed down the process and left majority of voters waiting, and in the end, over 40% of voters in many polling units could not cast their votes. Some INEC staff came without Form EC8A to record results at the polling unit, with many electoral officers claiming they were not issued, while some only went back to get them after pressure from electorates. INEC also failed to upload results on IREV and adopted manual transmission of results as against what was agreed. Such flaws pose a cataclysmic threat to the survival of democracy and the very peace and existence of the nation, Nigeria. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and please Turn the notification bell on. Thank you. INEC has upgraded its deceit using technology. The devices they spent millions to acquire were abandoned. Nigerians have every reason to doubt the sincerity of INEC. That is why their officials had to be checkmated to forestall another daylight robbery. INEC has succeeded in dampening our enthusiasm about elections. Their conduct is capable of derailing democracy. The so-called reform in the Electoral Act was not respected as beavers was largely ignored. This is a cause for worry about their credibility. Regrettably, few minority have succeeded in altering the will and determination of the majority with unrestrained impunity. This election, if it could even be termed so, should rank as the worst in the history of elections in the country. This election lacks transparency and credibility. It was a sham and charade, which, if allowed to stand, would have thwarted the resolve of majority of Nigerians and set a bad precedent. This is the worst election ever conducted in the history of Nigeria, and I can tell you there is palpable fear and anger. Can't you see that everywhere is quiet? Does that quietness look normal? Even APC members are not celebrating. Everywhere is quiet as a grave. People are disenchanted with the system. You see result sheets with so many cancellations and correction fluid. Where LP scored 217, which was counted at polling units, it came out at collation center as 27. The most painful aspect is that no lesson has been learnt at all, because those who allow themselves to be used to carry out these electoral robberies are the same youths who are hungry and have been complaining of the pains of bad leadership. Just because someone gave them $100 or even $1,000 that he will exhaust the next day, he will offer himself to be used for electoral fraud. I weep for Nigeria, and I don't think it is over yet. The Civil Liberties Organization, CLO, in its monitoring and re-evaluation report on the election in Rivers, noted that the most critical lesson learned was that no matter the sophistication of the technology deployed, there will never be free and fair elections in Nigeria without any commitment to consequence action against key state and non-state actors who deliberately compromise the process for selfish gain. Rivers CLO report, signed by Stephen Obokwe and others, recommended that the electoral officers and security personnel who collaborated with the government to trample on the will of citizens be fished out and prosecuted. That's the news, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.